So everything is good. Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello. Welcome. Good morning, everyone. I have Elisabeth Paehtz with me today. We're going to be doing some coaching training, getting to 2000.
On the road to 2000,
Road to
yes.
2000. It's been a rough week for chess. I've been tanking a little bit. But I've also been trying a bunch of really terrible moves and stuff, so that's been my fault.
We can actually also look at one of your games at some point if you want.
Oh boy. It's probably good. There's a couple games that I was like just completely lost in. There was many games where I just threw pieces away trying to be crazy and it didn't work out fully. But other than that, yeah, I just need to get back to pushing pawns. Exactly, Dragon. I need to stop trying to move my knights and bishops and whatever, and we just gotta push the pawns. That'll be the way to do
Okay,
it.
I mean, like just to explain the idea of my lesson. The idea is the following. We start with some exercises where you are allowed to see, which are a little bit more complex. And then we will switch to the part where you are not allowed to see anything.
Okay.
Yes, and the first exercises I built up for you is obviously not about stalemate, because stalemate would mean that you're not able to move anything.
Right.
And you have plenty of pieces for white, so you can forget about the dream of stalemating.
Yes. Okay.
So the first,
So first one is just try and get a checkmate.
basically, yes, this is like a kind of exercise which is not so hard if you follow the systematic calculation.
Yep.
And yes, this is a warm up. Let's put it this way.
Okay. So first things I know, or I can check here and here with, oops, move that back. Here or here are my two checks. Bishop defends this, so that would be just a dead piece. So knight here forces this guy over, which could be a check right there. If once that force is there, I could check again potentially, but that would open up with the pawn. And then
What other checks do you have? You forgot one check to mention, I think.
I have no, my bishop can't check right now. I guess
Said knight
I have this
seven.
right here, yes.
Yes.
So I have two checks, yeah, with the knight. If I take there, takes there, takes there, and then that lines up. So that seems pretty good and deadly. So if they don't take and they move, then that would still be a check. Takes, check now. They can't move back because they have the knight right here. That seems pretty good. So let's say they do take. Now I've got this line on them. They move here. My pawn is defending both of these squares. I think it's the same idea. Take, take, right there is knight, takes, mate. So,
Like just to follow you, you said knight g6 check. You found out that after king g8, there is the check on f8 combined with bishop d5, which is a mate. This is true.
right.
And after knight g6 check, you take, and king g8. And then actually, like, you got bishop d5 check, which is not possible yet as the rook is on f3.
Right. So then I can still. Well, I guess if I throw this, king can just take. So.
Yes, and that's actually
So
the
I.
problem about your variation. So you have to.
So if I throw this way down.
Would be almost mate, but the problem is that the bishop on c5 is guarding the square on f8.
Yeah. So do we have a way to distract this bishop? is the question. Okay, so if I have knight here, I mean, then they can just like move the bishop and stay in this line.
So, I mean, basically, like from all what you said, you already recognize the mating pattern. The mating pattern is connected with the open H file because that was the closest you could mate. But the problem basically was that the moment you needed the bishop on g2, it wasn't working out.
Right.
So what you should do, like once you recognize a pattern, is to try to change the move order.
Okay. So instead of first going here, I should first bring my rook, forcing the bishop to capture. Then I can move this, takes, bishop, mate. Well, knight, takes, mate. That makes a lot of sense.
Very good. Impressive.
That makes sense. That's something I wouldn't even think of in a real game. I would just be like, oh, okay, well, let's try this and pray that they make the wrong move or whatever, and they, take first instead of moving the king or something, whatever it is, or the opposite.
So let's just like sum it up for chat so they understand your thoughts. The first thought Alex had was to give the check here before. I mean, like he checked, of course, other kind of checks which didn't work.
Yep.
And he recognized in case of king g8 that now with the temporary sacrifice of the rook, opening up the diagonal for the bishop, after bishop takes f8, which is forced, there is a checkmate with bishop d5.
Right.
The problem, however, about his calculation was that after knight g6 check, his opponent can also take on g6, take on g6. And now after king g8, of course, there are sometimes mating patterns, just like rook h8 check, king takes h8, and rook f8 check doesn't work, however, as the bishop is guarding it.
Right.
And he recognized that the move he wants to play the most, bishop d5, is not possible as the guy on f3 is blocking it. That, in the summary of all these kind of patterns, he got to the conclusion that he first has to throw in the rook in order to free the bishop, and then the whole idea is working out.
A gift for you.
Very good.
I'm just here for the fire suit, Kappa.
So then that takes, I can show it. And then I come in here with the check, and then doesn't matter which way they do it. And then mate.
Bishop will give the mate. Very good. This was a warm-up. There will be a second and third warm-up before you will be blindfolded.
Oh boy.
Just I decided that these exercises, since they contain a lot of pieces, maybe it's not good to... This is an easy one anyway. To encourage you.
Mm-hmm. I like encouragement prior to getting beat down. Thank you, Grimy, for 50 months. Wow.
So 1 second. Let me just copy it. I copied it and I get the BGN. And
bring in the heat.
Here we go.
Okay, white to move or black?
It's white to move.
Okay.
Always from the side you're seeing it.
Okay. So first thoughts is we have one check available. And that has a force of a king to 1 or 2 spots unless they want to kill their queen. If they go right there, then we would have a royal fork, so that's not an option. So their king is moving to b7 if we do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels...
Oops, I have to enable the phone, but I will do this.
You're good. I don't know, that doesn't feel great. Because then once the king is there, I don't feel like anything
what
is...
does that tell you about calculation? What you should always first watch out? All kind of checks. So after like one check, the king goes somewhere. You have to look if there are other checks before you're breaking up your calculation.
Okay, so right there, I guess, is a good check because then I have a forced fork if taken. They have to take, or they go and they get forked no matter what. Oh, that's a pretty cool thing. So there. Oh, no, not right there. Sorry. Here, and then it doesn't matter what they do. Their best move is to take, and then I win the queen with whatever they do.
That's why I tell you, I give you the beginning exercises to encourage you.
Yeah, that was very thoughtful and nice.
Because this was like even easier than the previous one.
Yeah, that was really easy.
You will get one more, which is probably not so easy, but it's very nice. I like it because I already saw the solution. Okay, 1 second. I just build it up. And the last warm up before we talk business.
Sounds good.
Oops.
It's good to warm up the brain, because whenever I start chess, I always lose my first like 3 games.
But you know, like what you can do in order to avoid that?
Puzzle rush.
So no, yes, puzzle rush or something. Soft tactics to get warm up.
Thanks, Titus. Okay. So let's see. We have a pin. Obviously, the queen can take. And we have a check right here or right here. So these are all of our checking options. We have no checks and captures. So let's explore these things. First, the pin doesn't make any sense right now.
Wait, why do you say things like, I mean, it's not like now about whether this move is right or wrong.
Right.
But you immediately like exclude something without even having a thought maybe something can actually help you.
Okay.
Of course, you exclude it because you give a piece, but you don't know what you get in return.
I would get the queen away from defending this square if I bring my bishop here. The problem is, I mean, I'm not finding any, like, king goes here. I feel like the king has escape paths if we do that. So if this was blocked, then that would be better feeling.
So, but hang on, like, I mean, after bishop b3, queen takes b3, rook e8, check, king f7, have you looked for other checks?
I have a knight here or a knight here, or I guess I could sack a rook. Oh, I guess I'd have rook right here.
So you have at least 3 checks. Now understand which of these checks make sense and which of these checks don't make sense.
Knight here makes no sense.
Very good.
Knight here does protect my rook, but the king can still escape. So it doesn't, but then I can maybe like push and do some weird stuff with pawns somehow. Yeah, that's the only escape square, I guess, on the knight right there. So the king comes over here. We give another check. The king goes to one of these 2 squares. And then if the king's here, I guess the knight comes back with another check, which forces this, and then I push the pawn for mate.
You see? And the funny part about all this is like, bishop b3, this makes no sense, and I exclude it.
Well, it just was giving a piece away. I was going to eventually work to the mating pattern and realize the queen was in the way and needed to get away, and then we would come back and get rid of the queen.
But I mean, what I want you in general, like,
excited. Celebrating with Chipotle. I got a double steak bowl. Don't judge me.
Even like when you're playing a game, like you see something and it doesn't work out because I can capture it, and you immediately exclude it. Don't do that, because you should first of all always trust your intuition. Your intuition is the one, this is the inner voice guiding you towards your decisions. And once, like a very famous coach said, like, that the first thought you have during the game, or the first move you feel to do during the game, is most likely the best one. Not always, of course, but it is usually like what is guided by your inner intuition and feelings. So whenever like I have a position and I have like the choice of 2 or 3 moves, and I understand my first choice by my feeling was, let's say, bishop b3, I would rather concentrate on this when I can't take a decision compared to the other moves, because the intuition still like needs to tell you something, and it is good sometimes to listen. And your intuition told you bishop b3, but you immediately excluded.
Right.
And this is also like connected, of course, to psychology, because chess is like a very psychological game.
Yeah.
So let me see if I give you one more normal exercise. Okay, I will give you now one more normal exercise to get you into the spirit of stalemates.
Thank you, Nighthawk, by the way.
Because this will be the topic of today.
That's awesome, man. Celebrating with Chipotle. Ooh, double steak bowl. Hey, I mean, you put an offer in a house. That sounds like a double steak bowl kind of day.
Okay, 1 second.
That's right, gazinked. Nighthawk with a gifted sub.
I am Nighthawk65 gifted a tier 1 sub to Draka SLTS.
So here comes the last visible exercise for today.
Okay. So obviously we have this with forking potential right here. Obviously it's protected by this knight currently. I
mean, before you look at any moves,
right.
What is special about this position?
What's special is black is got a bishop, black is up a pawn, and this right here is a triple whatever fork position that we're all sitting in.
Okay, I mean, you concentrate on the checks and captures, but what I mean, like, what is the special character of this position? There's something which is unique here in this position. What do you think, who's better objectively, white or black?
I mean, black's probably better objectively, like without looking at anything else.
Black is better. Why is black better?
They're up material and their pawns are further down the board.
And what else when we speak about activity?
They have a bishop on an open board.
And what is another thing which is very special about this position? Like kind of thing which you should like always.
Their king is more active currently.
Yes, indeed. But what about the white king?
The white king is physically trapped completely.
Yes, the white king is on stalemate.
Yep.
You are a pawn down. You are not able to activate the king. So your only chance is basically like when you like facing a position where your king basically is stalemated.
Right.
And you are worse. Then you automatically should find some ideas to sacrifice everything.
So you can't move.
Yeah. So basically then to just like reach the stalemate eventually, because the only guys who can right now move at the board are the knights.
Right.
And this is a motive which automatically comes when you see my position is worse. My only hope is stalemate because my king is anyway paralyzed. All I need to do is to sacrifice.
Right. So my thoughts are my knight's here and here. I would need to force him to take, though. So I guess the first thought that I have is taking here and forcing this trade, and then my knight coming here threatening a take with a check.
1 second. If your
but
knight
then
goes to e3,
he can just move.
then you are blocking the diagonal of the bishop.
Right. So I guess I'd come up here. And I'm threatening a take with this dual check and winning of material, which would stalemate the game completely, probably.
So, I mean, like, after knight e7, like, he has to move.
He has to move. I mean, man, what does he move? His king? I mean, he moves. Yeah, I guess, like, he moves
What happens if he moves the knight?
If he moves the knight, then I just swing into this spot, and I threaten. Well, obviously I have a check. He's forced to either take, or I can win this bishop, and then
win the pawn on b5,
and then win the pawn, and the game is over. So he's forced to take my knight,
and then it's stalemate.
And then it's stalemate because then I can't move.
So let's just explain to chat, because some of them are wondering about the knight e3 square. Like, the solution is knight takes f5, knight takes f5, and knight e7.
Right.
And now it's a kind of attack. If black captures, it's stalemate on the spot because we don't have any legal move. And if we would go, for example, like knight e3, then the problem is always knight takes e3 and
got it.
Move on g1.
Yep.
And that's not what we want. The only question remains is if white starts immediately with knight e3, which could also be actually a drawish pattern. It is not so original like
knight
the
to
solution,
c7.
But yet it is basically also leading towards the draw. Now I think the best way for black is to get out of the diagonal.
Right.
In order to give the king some air to breathe. But objectively, this position should also be drawish. But okay, white has to fight a bit because the white is not in the best situation and this pawn is a bit weak.
Right.
But probably it's a draw as well.
Yeah, so that was my first thought, was like force, throw that knight first down here to e3 and kind of force this double up right here. So they're either forced to take, or if they don't take, then it creates this weird, pattern where now I'm putting pressure on like this pawn and stuff. But like you said, they don't have to take it. Obviously, in my rating level, they would take it 100% of the time. But, for proper theory, they aren't forced to take it, and thus the other pattern seems to be more effective.
Yeah, the other one is just forcing without any chances, but this one, I mean, still allows black to hope and to play, and white has to be very accurate.
Yeah. So, yep.
I mean, I just got a question. I mean, he could move his king towards the knight instead of taking it, but once you move the king after knight takes f5, I can capture your knight.
Yep.
And that's why it is always a draw.
Right.
Okay. 1 second. Now we will, just to quickly show it, what I think one person in my chat meant is like after the move knight takes f5, he cannot afford himself to move the king because I can capture one of these guys, and after knight takes f5, knight e7, of course he can move the king, but now I can take on f5 and I have a double attack.
Yep.
And okay, you can play bishop e5 as well, and then okay, I would probably draw it in a way. Not so easy, but there should be ways to draw it, because I just have to capture this pawn on b5, because even this position with a piece down is draw, because you will not be able to get the king out from the corner on h1.
Right.
So once we exchange these two pawns and the knight, we will still make a draw because you will not be able to get the king out.
So, I mean, my thought, I guess, is here, take, and just end the game.
You can sacrifice the knight for this pawn on b5, because only with this 4 pieces left, which are now marked in red.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these 4 pieces left, I will just mark them now in red. For some reason, you unmark them. I don't know.
No, I'm not. It's the analysis board is
yes,
is
okay.
a mess.
Anyway, So these 4 pieces left and the sacrificed knight, also this is a draw.
Yeah.
Okay, now we will switch to the blindfold task because now you have 9. Okay, my board disappeared. Wonderful. As usual, the same problems. Anyway, it's a blindfold task now, so you can already get a bit
Okay,
ready.
let me put my blindfold on 1 sec.
But I will get oh, you got even a sleeping mask.
Okay, blindfold is on.
Yeah, but I have to get the board back first. And
Oh,
for some
okay.
reason it doesn't want me to get the board back. Oh Jesus Christ, why the board is not getting back? Maybe because this is... No, the board is not back as well. Wonderful. Okay, anyway, I will first set the position so it will be seen on your board. And then I will take care of my board.
Okay, and if the board isn't set on my screen or anything's wrong, please go to Liz's channel and tell her, and then she can tell me. Because I can't see, you know.
We will start with easy tasks.
Perfect. I like the sound of that.
But first I have to get my board back. I will get this quickly, but I think on your half it will already appear. On my half, for some reason, it doesn't want to appear. So I will just kill it and I will get a new Windows capture done.
Okay. I'm thinking king a8, pawn a7, pawn b7, and white has a rook on e1. Perfect. Let's do it.
You have already seen the position now.
That is the position I'm giving myself. Is that what the position actually is? Because I just made that up in my head.
No, this is not the position about.
Dang it.
No, for some reason, actually, it doesn't allow me to make anything on my sources, which is a bit strange. I never experienced that. I will just...
Do you need to re-invite me to a new board and stuff?
No, you will be fine. I
Okay.
just end my stream and I will get online in a second.
Okay.
For you, nothing changes because you are still on Zoom. For me, it will just change in a way that I will close Streamlabs and open it again and will restart everything.
Okay. Sounds good. How's it going, chat?
Nothing will happen. Yeah. Meanwhile, I can give you the position.
Sure.
It's king on h3.
King on h3.
I don't know, it's king on a6.
Okay. Is this black or white?
White. I always start with white. King on a6.
Okay.
Pawn on a5.
a5, yeah.
Pawn on d7.
Pawn on d7, okay.
And rook on f7.
And rook is on f7.
Yes.
Okay.
And black is king on a8.
King on a8.
Yes. And queen on b8.
Okay.
And pawns c6.
c6. Okay.
d4.
d4. What the heck is this position? Okay.
And e6.
c6, e6, and d4.
Yes. And h6 and h3.
h6 and h3.
A gift for you. A sub to help the llama Fifi wide FIFO happy 1 Fifi wide FIFO happy 2.
Okay, and white has a pawn on d7, right?
White has a pawn on d7, a5, rook f7, and
Yeah.
king a6.
Okay. And black's got king a8, queen a8, pawn c6, e6,
d4,
d4, h3, and h6.
yes.
Okay. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm almost ready.
Okay.
I got back my live board finally.
Woo.
It was not easy, but I don't know what happened actually. At some point, the stream leaps us is a very strange friend of mine. Okay, now I mean, like, just to to repeat for my chat the position.
Yeah.
Or they will see it now finally. So, can you just sum up how the position is standing? So we will see that I pronounced it correctly to you, because maybe I was not even moving.
White has a king on a6, a pawn
Yes.
on a5, a pawn on d7, and a rook on f7.
Yes.
Black has a king on a8, a queen on b8, a pawn on c6, e6, d4, h6, and
I am
h3.
Nighthawk65
Yes,
gifted
and
a
it's
tier
white
1
to move.
sub to White
And
Knight
it's white to move.
2800.
So black is
They have
threatening
given
a
12
mate
subs in the
if
channel.
it's their chance to move with queen b7.
Well, the thing is, like, if black was to move, it is very bad news for white, indeed.
Right. Yes. Or hey, they've got multiple. So white to move. So the first thing is I don't have any checks with white to move.
Yes.
So I need to open up the path. Am I playing for a stalemate or a checkmate?
Well, the thing is, like, what do you think are the odds to checkmate your opponent here?
I mean, it seems pretty low.
Yeah, very good.
So it's a very poor position for white. So my first thought is I need to clear a path for the rook to get over. So I probably am wanting to promote my pawn on d7 that puts a pin and distracts the queen and opens up a line so that my rook can swing over in some capacity. So my first thought is d7 to d8, queen it up, queen takes, queen, rook then moves over to a7, and then, but the problem is, I mean, can't they just move their king until eventually I can't? Okay, well, let's see. They move their king to a7, let's say, or b8, and then I move my rook to b7, and then they move their king to c8, and then
You slowly run out of checks.
I slowly run out of checks. So instead,
the rook on a8, but the thing is, like, I will not capture it and stalemate.
Right.
Stalemate, I will play likely king c7, and my h pawn will be a lot quicker than yours.
Exactly. So I need my king to stay in front of my pawn, and I need to somehow not be able. So I guess the queen's on d8, which blocks off the b6 square. So
hey, look, we calculated d8 queen as one move. Do you have any other move to have which should, like, obviously cross your mind apart from d8?
Pushing my rook up to f8.
Yes, and now you have to distinguish what is the difference between two moves and which move is giving you more success.
So that move, obviously, queen has to take as well. And so if I go f8, queen takes, and then I push my pawn. Oh, and then it's a stalemate if they take. So.
And especially you push your pawn as a check, and you can even choose if you want to promote a queen or a rook.
Yeah.
So that was the easy one.
Yeah.
Now let me get you something a bit more complicated.
Did you solve it on the board for chat?
I will solve it on the board for chat.
Okay, yeah. They like to see it. Yeah, so the reason that we do it this way is because otherwise, if I go the pawn first and they take with the queen, then my rook is always free to move and they never have to technically capture it, and then they can run me out of checks, basically. And then they're free to
problem
kind of
is
go.
like if I now sacrifice a rook, then the queen will go to f8 and the square for the
Yep.
king on 6 is available.
Right.
That's why the whole idea with reverse move orders don't work. And if I give a check here and now try to sacrifice in that way, we would make a draw after king takes a8, but unfortunately here king c7 is possible, and then after exchanging the pieces, my guy on h3 is a lot faster than the guy on a5, and that's why black would be winning.
Right.
That's why we start with rook f8, first get the queen to f8, and now promote with a queen, for example. Even with a rook is possible. You have to take, and I will be stalemated.
Yes.
Very good. Amazing stuff. Now let me get you another position, which is a bit more sophisticated, let's say. Even so, objectively easier, but in other means harder. Very hard to explain. You'll see.
I have no clue what that means, but okay.
I mean, basically, like, all you have to do is to find a good move.
Yeah, of course.
White is king b1.
King b1.
Yes. Rook b4.
Rook b4.
And rook d4.
And rook d4.
And black.
Yep.
Black king a3.
King a3. Oh, wow.
Pawn a4.
Pawn on a4.
And rook c8.
And a rook on c8. Ah, that's the tricky guy.
And now it's black to move.
Oh, it's black to move. Okay, so obviously there's some threats. C4. So their threat is, I guess, because we have a pawn on a4, you said, right?
Yes.
And they have a rook on b4, and our king is on a3. So we're technically protecting the square, the b3 square. The problem is, I guess right now they're threatening just taking that pawn on a4. So
what else you realize? How much squares does the king on a3 has?
The king on a3, let's see, their king is on b1, so we don't have any or we have no squares except b3.
Why we have the square on b3 when the rook is on b4?
Well, if they take the pawn, I'm saying.
Yes, if I take the pawn. But I mean, the thing is, like, once you take the pawn with a check, and we are rook down objectively,
yes,
we better do something to not allow this at all.
Right. So, I guess the thought is I either need to throw my rook away by, I could go to like c3, c4, I mean, and just get it.
You want to go to c4. What is the problem about going to c4?
If I go to c4, if they take the rook, then it's stalemate.
Hang on. I have two rooks on the 4th rank.
Yes.
You are right in terms of the rook on d4 taking on c4.
Yeah.
But what happens if d4 takes on c4?
If d4 takes on c4, b4 takes on c4, then that opens up
the b file.
The b file, so I can go to b3 then.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, I need to make sure that... Okay, so now I can just throw down to like... What if I go to C1 and just throw a check in?
What is the problem about throwing the check on C1 in terms of your king on A3 and the king on B1?
Oh, yeah, then that opens up the B2.
No, it
or
opens
A2, A2, I mean, excuse me.
So you have to find something a little bit more...
Sophisticated.
Yes, this is my favorite word.
I know, you love it. Okay, so C1 doesn't work, C4 doesn't work. I need to do something. So, I mean, my initial gut was go to A8 with the rook.
With the idea of just like protecting the pawn.
Right.
But if you
A8,
yeah, rook down, and I will just like
exactly
out of stalemate, and I will slowly outplay you.
Yes. So I
Look
guess
for moves with a threat.
What?
You have to look for moves with a threat, because the only check on C1 we can exclude.
Yeah.
And like when we go to the algorithm of calculation, we said captures, we don't have with black. Checks, they don't help us. The next thing is like moves with a threat. So you had already rook C4 as one idea. What else? What other move would cause a threat?
Rook to D8 is the other thought, and rook to B8 could both cause threats.
Hang on, the rook on D8, does it really cause a threat?
Yeah, because they just take the pawn.
Also, but the thing is, like after rook D8, you don't even threat rook takes C4 because I can capture back, and you would be still rook down.
Yeah, that's true. So, rook on B8 has the threat, but they can, because if they capture, then I'm stalemated. If they capture the pawn, though, then I can move rook to B, or king to B3.
Wait, honey.
Okay.
Why is it an illegal move to capture on A4?
Oh, because their king is pinned. Oh my god, I thought the king was on the... yeah. So then it forces them to capture the rook. Man, that's so easy. Why didn't I think about a pin?
Well, the thing is, like I told you, the position is objectively easy, but yet it's hard because it's sophisticated solution.
Man, that's so easy.
In a way, it's easy, but on the other hand, it's hard. It's very hard to explain, but this is this kind of exercises which appear to be easy, but in fact, they are not so easy because it's not well trivial to get to the fact that rook B8 is a solution here.
Yeah, it's tough in my mind because my visualization is still not 100%. Like, seeing the whole board is still really difficult. I can like zoom in on the board when I visualize pieces, but it's really hard to see everything. And so the thought of seeing B1, B4, and B8 and like seeing the pin is really difficult to see on first glance. But it's very obvious, like after the fact, when I think about where those pieces are.
No, of course. I mean, that's why. I mean, like these are still like easy task, but already like in the execution sophisticated.
Yeah.
Hard to explain, but I mean, like I know that these positions they appear very easy, but
Yes.
they are not so easy. In fact, because the move we are looking for here is not so obvious. It's not a check. It's not a capture.
Right.
So it's already like a bit harder from this point of view.
Yep.
I showed it to chat. The solution is rook b8, and if you capture on b8, there is the stalemate trick. So that's why after rook b8, white is getting his pawn, his rook back, and would save the game.
Yeah.
Next position, I already set it up.
Okay.
And you will be black. And your king is on h1 with black. Your knight is on e3.
Hold on. H1. Wow,
No,
my
no,
king.
no. You are white. Sorry, you're white.
Okay, I was like, how'd my king get to h1? All right. Okay,
Yes.
so I'm white, and my white king is on h1.
No, your white king is on h3.
h3.
Your rook is on d2.
d2 rook.
Yes, and black has a king on h1.
Mm-hmm.
A queen on e1.
Queen on e1.
And a knight on e3.
And a tricky knight on e3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you are white to move. I mean, this is an easy one, I would say. But still, it's good to warm you up a little bit more.
Right. Okay, so my king is on h3, right?
Your king is on h3, your rook is on d2, and black has a king on h1, a queen on e1, and a knight on e3.
Okay, so they're blocking all of my escape squares. Like right now, if my rook is dead, then the game is over with a stalemate.
Yes.
Because they're blocking g4, and so I need to not have them move their pieces at all.
Yes.
Because if I bring my rook down, or let's say, okay, so I guess the thought is I bring my rook over to h2.
Mm-hmm.
King moves to g1. Rook down to h1. King takes, and then the game is over.
Yes, very good. Okay, this was a very easy one, but I want to encourage you.
Thank you.
Before we get the harder stuff.
Oh, God.
Now we will speak a little bit more in a funny... Now the positions become a bit more funny.
Oh, jeez.
Let's see how you're doing on this. You will have more pieces now to cope with.
Are we still trying to stalemate?
Well, the topic of today is stalemating, so you get some... I mean, you know, why do you need the stalemate motif so much? It's very simple to explain, especially in endgames when you are worse. Stalemate pattern is one of the best resources in order to defend or to trick your opponent.
Right.
That's why it's good to visualize or to train the pattern of stalemate, because in a lot of positions you may need that.
Yep.
Next position. We are white.
Okay.
And we have a king on h6.
Mm-hmm.
A rook on a8.
King on h6, rook on a8.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then a pawn on h5, g4, and f6.
h5, g4, and f6. And the king is on h6.
Yes. So black has a king on h8.
King on h8.
Bishop on g8.
Okay.
Pawns f7, c2, and a2.
f7, c2, and a2. Oh, geez.
Yeah. And it's white to move.
Okay, so let me think. C2 and A2. So A1 lines up to H8, which means C1 lines up to H6.
Exactly.
Okay, and so that's where my king is. And it's white to move, you said.
It's white to move, yes. Because, I mean, what you will realize is that you will not be able to prevent promotion from any of these two pawns. You can prevent one promotion, but you will not be able to prevent the other promotion.
Right. What does black have over... You said they have their pawns on A2 and C2. Do they have another piece on that side of the board?
No, they have only A2 and C2, and on the other side they have F7, Bishop G8, and King H8.
Okay.
So also black's king is on stalemate, let's put it this way, which is not important for us, but anyway useful to know.
Right. Okay. So, first thoughts is I can't stop promotion. I can either capture with my rook. Let's just go with the first simplest thing. Capture bishop with check. King takes. I have this pawn that can still move on the whatever you call it square. On
G5.
the G5, yeah, right. So my G5, well, he's on G4 right now, right? But I can move to
is on G4 right now, yes.
but I can move to G5, yeah. So then if they promote the C pawn, then it's a stalemate. So they would promote their A pawn instead.
And it's no stalemate
And
anymore.
it's no stalemate. So I need to instead take with my rook on the A pawn. They promote with their C pawn. I move my pawn to block and force that stick. Actually, I move my rook. Ooh, how do I do this?
You can't move. I mean, you cannot really move your rook because you're on a check.
Well, I could move my rook to D7, D6, D7. Yeah.
You mean? We're speaking about the first move you said, rook takes A2.
D2, sorry. Yeah.
Yes, I promote the queen with C1.
Right.
I will show this to chat.
And now I need to block with either pawn or rook.
Now you can block with a pawn on the rook, but the thing is, like, you still have like your rook on the board, and you have the pawns on the board, and also like black is able to move something.
Right.
So I don't think that you're even close to make a stalemate here.
No, it's pretty far off. So instead, what?
You have to change something in your process of thinking.
Right. So instead, I mean, the only moves I have available right now are, I guess the rook is still protecting that A pawn, so it's forcing the C pawn to promote.
Exactly. Now we are getting closer
So, the first move I do is I push up my pawn, and then they promote their C pawn, and then I sacrifice my rook with a check, and then the game is over.
Very good, Alex. Very good.
Yeah.
Indeed. That's the trick. That's the solution. The thing is, like, currently we need the rook to hold the A pawn. So the only promotion like black has is the C pawn.
Yep.
So we will close up the diagonal, not to force a check. And after C1 queen, the pawn on G5 is paralyzed as it is pinned because of the king on H6. And that means all we have to do is to sacrifice our last moving piece, which is a rook, and finally reach the draw.
Right.
Very good, Alex. You're extremely good in basically like putting all the puzzles you find at the beginning into the right order. And fast as well.
Good coaching.
Let's try to find something harder.
Oh boy.
Now we will talk finally. Now we will talk.
Uh-oh.
And now let's see how creative you are, because for this one you have to be super creative.
Oh dear.
Okay. You have also like, the good news is it's only about pawns and kings.
Well, the bad news is I have to be creative with pawns and kings. But okay, let's do it.
That's the bad news. That's the best news. So, white has a king on H2.
Okay.
Then the pawns are on G2.
Yep.
H3.
Mm-hmm.
G4.
Okay.
And G5.
And G5. Good lord. Yeah. What happened in this game?
Triple pawns. And black has a king on B8.
On B8? Oh, geez.
Yes. And a pawn on G6.
Okay.
And a pawn on A4.
And a pawn on a4.
And the bad news is, Alex, you will not be able to hold this pawn.
Yeah, I can't get over there.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's white to move, I'm guessing.
Yes, and now you have to be really creative to solve this.
Okay, so a4 pawn. I need to trap all of my stuff up. Oh my god, but I have a pawn on h3. How in the world do I... Okay. What the heck? So I've got these tripled pawns. I have this pawn on h3, which can essentially always move. Their g6 pawn is blocking, but... I mean, how do I push my h3 pawn
in the right speed, right?
In the right speed, but also like they always have the option to take it or not take it. And then if they take it, my G pawns can move then. So how can I block up? Like I can't sacrifice all of these pawns.
Well, maybe you should like change your mindset.
Okay, so let's see. So I have h3 and they have g6. So let's do some pretending that I push to h4. They push to a3. I go to h5. They go to a2.
And you're too slow, Alex.
What?
And you will be too slow because I
Right.
mean, like,
Right.
Black need only 3 moves for promotion, and you need like 100.
Right.
Okay,
Exactly. I'm like a million miles away.
Yeah. Find something else. You have to like really change your mindset set to a totally different idea.
Okay, so I have the capability of forcing my king down. And that pawn up. Oh, jeez. I resign. I push the resign button.
You resign, Alex. Just, I mean, like, look.
Yeah.
In chess, I mean, like, the difficulty of this exercise is like that you somehow believe that you either can like get a promotion in time,
right,
or somehow believe there is some extraordinary swindle to make your king fly to the other wing.
Right.
And I can tell you, both of these beliefs are not existent.
Right. There's no way to get over there, and there's no way to promote. So.
But the thing is, like, I mean, like, you know the topic. So the topic is stalemate.
Yes.
But sometimes.
Oh, hold on. Oh, I got it. King to g3.
I push a3.
King to h4.
I push a2.
And push my g pawn.
Yes, and you're like suffocating yourself.
And I suffocate myself in a little stalemate box.
Yes. That's why I told you, like, for this one, you have to be super creative.
What a silly pattern.
It is a silly pattern, but the thing is, like, this is, I mean, of course, these are studies, but these kind of patterns, you know, it's good to recognize them and it's good to train them, because who knows, maybe one time in your life you will get such a situation where you have to like help your king to stalemate him or herself.
That is literally the silliest thing I've ever seen in my life. Or not seen, but visualized. It's literally creating a little box to suffocate myself in before they can get their queen.
You know, Alex, it's your nothing box.
It's my nothing box.
Okay.
That is like such a wonderful puzzle because it's so dumb. Like,
I know it's dumb.
You force yourself out of moves, and then you bring the pawn up behind to block it.
No, but okay. I mean, like I solved these exercises like in my teenage times, but I really love these exercises because, okay, in chess sometimes there can be exercises that are so. I mean, in some way they look so retarded, but yet they're very funny.
Right. That is completely absurd.
Okay, now we will speak a bit more serious, and you have a lot more pieces now.
Uh-oh.
Okay, white.
Yep.
King A2.
King A2.
Queen F4.
Queen F4.
Knight B3.
Knight on B3.
Then pawns A3.
Yep.
B2.
B2.
D3.
D3.
G5 and H5.
Oh, Jesus. G5 and H5.
I will repeat for you.
Yep.
King on A2.
Mm-hmm.
Queen on F4.
Yep.
Knight on B3. Pawns A3, B2, D3, G5 and H5.
D3, okay. A3, B2, D3, G5, H5. Okay.
Yes. Now black. Queen D5.
Queen on D5.
King H8.
King on H8.
Rooks E1, E8.
Rooks on E1 and E8. Okay.
And now pawns. A4, B5.
A4, B5.
C5.
C5.
D4.
D4. Jesus.
G6, H7.
G6, H7.
Yes, and it's black to it's white to move.
Oh my god. Okay, so first thoughts are my knight on A3 is being attacked. They've got a queen on D4, which is lining up to, is it D4 or D5?
D5, because on D4 is a pawn.
D4 is a black pawn. Okay.
Basically, what you have to understand is that the only pieces which are still allowed to move for white is the queen and the pawn on H5.
Right.
Everything else is blocked.
Right. Pawn on H5 can either capture on G6 or play to H6.
Mm-hmm.
And the queen on D5 to C4 to B3 where my knight is. So the bishop or the queen is also on there, and so I guess queen is threatening mate.
Also the pawn on A4
Also the
is
pawn is threatening mate. Both of them are threatening mate.
Yes.
So that is a problem. I have my everything else is locked up, so I can move my queen and I can move my pawn. Where is black king is on H8, H6? No, there's a pawn there. So H8, right?
Yes, your king is on H8.
Okay. So my queen can throw a check. Right, just like a basic check. I can run up to F8. And
how much checks do you have objectively?
I have let's see, if they're on H8, G7, F6. So I can go F6 or F8.
Yes, but what you have to also use in terms of stalemating, you have the problem that you have a running pawn on H5.
Right. So I need to get that pawn not capable of moving. But I also am going to be mated in 1 if I don't fix this. So I need to Okay, so I'm on f4, which means I can... What's my angles backwards? f4 is right there, so that's going to be hitting over to C, F, E, D, C. So that's C1 that I can get in front of if I wanted. But then I'm still getting mated in 1.
Well, I mean, like, just...
Actually, no, because then if I go C1, well, yeah, because I have a pawn, so they can still do that. Okay, so I have 2 checks.
Yes.
The first check of f8 just gets captured. I have a running pawn, and they just mate me. So that doesn't work. In my first thought.
I mean, like, okay, you have basically here 3 checks. E5, F6, and F8.
Oh, I guess I have e5 too.
Yes, you have 3 checks. And the thing is, like,
okay.
that all the checks will not help you as long you will not be able to combine them with the pawn on h5.
Right.
So you have to find a connection between the queen and the pawn on h5.
Right.
And if you find a connection, the solution is very easy.
Okay, so the connection for those guys is if I throw a check in, let's say at f6, because that's at least protected, then king moves to g8. Then my queen can check again on g6, and then the king moves to either one of the 2 squares, and then
you give check on f6 and after king g8.
Then I go queen to g6.
g6.
Right?
You want to capture on g6.
Wait, is there a pawn on G? Oh, it's G6 and H7 is the pawn? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Ah, crap. Okay, so they go to G8. So then I go to... I need to get the... Oh, okay. So then I go to G7, the king captures, then I push my pawn to H6.
And
the game is now, yeah, then they got out of check and then it's stalemate.
Yes, very good. So basically, like, all you had to do in this position, okay, it's maybe easy to say all you had to do, you had to memorize it, obviously. I mean, is to give the check on f6 and to find the connection between the pawn on h5 and the queen on f6. And the connection is, well, based on the square g7, which means king g8 is forced. I give the check. You have to capture. And with h6, I finish the game. The king has to move. And white runs out of moves.
Yep.
Very, very good, Alex. Let's try another exercise to get into something. Maybe I have something even more funny. Ah, yes, I have something funny. You will love it.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And okay. And it's less pieces. This is a good news.
Well, that's good. That was a lot of pieces.
Okay. This is actually also a classical pawn ending. So you will be playing with black.
Okay.
And you will be with a black king on c6.
Mm-hmm.
Pawns c5, b4, and a6.
c5, b4, a6.
Yes, and king on c6.
Yep.
White has a king on e6.
e6, okay.
e6. Yes, they are having this kind of opposition.
Yep.
Like they're
dueling, staring each other down.
Yeah. And the pawns on c4, b3, and a2.
Okay, c4, b3, and a2.
Yes, and it's black to move.
Okay, so my pawn on a6, if I can just shove that dude up somehow, right? Like if that dude can't move, then it's a complete draw.
Wait, I mean, like, what do you mean? Like, if that dude on a6 cannot move, it's a complete draw. I mean, the king on c6 objectively currently has the square on c7, b7, and b6.
Right, but I mean, if the pawns can't move, then like they're just chains, right? Because it's
thing is, like,
a2, c3, and b4. So I'm pretending if my pawn was on a3, b4, and c5, then it's a draw because our kings are not going to let each other go to the other side.
Well, like, it depends on Zugzwang positions, yes.
Right.
If it is white to move, it is always lost, actually, because the king will go to e5, and you will lose the control of the square d5, and then you will slowly capture the pawn on c5. You have to try. I mean, the thing,
yeah.
In this pawn ending, you lose all the opposition fights.
Right.
You will always lose the opposition, so you have to find another tool or another trick or another resource of defense in order to basically tell your opponent you don't care that you lose the opposition fights and maybe some pawns.
So I guess the thing is, I have a pawn that, like, I have a pawn that can take waiting moves and they don't. So that's the, like, thing that I'm thinking of right now. Is like...
Well, I think that you still know the topic of our exercises, right?
Stalemating.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to help it, right?
Sure. So, okay. So I'm on c6 and they're on e6. So I can't move to either of the fives. Well, I could move back. Let's see. No. Yeah. Because I have a pawn on c5 and they have a pawn on c4. So right now it's in opposition. So let's say I move to a5.
First, you have to move to b6, right?
Why do I have to move to b6?
Because your king is on c6. I mean, like, if you can move immediately to a5, I would say, like, it's... oh, you mean the pawn on a5?
Yeah, the pawn.
Ah, okay.
So let's just say that I move my pawn once. They have to move their king up or down, I guess. Crap.
Find another resource.
Yeah, I can't do anything. Okay, so let me see. If I run my king over, so I run my king to b6.
Then king d6 is coming because I want to capture on c5.
Right. Then I run my king to a5.
Yes, to a5, yes.
a5. Then they capture the pawn. And then I still have a4.
But your pawn is on a6.
Yes. So... But then... So I go to a4.
But the pawn is on b3. You're not allowed to go to a4.
Oh. So then I go to... Where are they at? They're at c6 right now?
No,
Yeah.
You said king b6, king d6, king a5, king takes c5, and now I'm waiting for your move.
I can't move.
Yes, that's the solution.
Ah, okay, cool.
That's why I was curious about your move.
I was curious too.
Yeah, I will show it to chat. So the idea is basically like to escape to a kind of corner where you will be stalemating yourself, and the king on a5 doesn't have any squares to escape.
Right. And so, I mean, if they don't take that pawn, it doesn't matter because then I can just go back and forth on that square until they do.
Yes, the thing is like you can always go to a5 and nothing will happen.
Right.
But it wouldn't work if you had moved your pawn to a3 because you needed to have the a6 square blocked by your own pawn.
Right.
That was the crucial thing.
Right, exactly.
Let me see the next one.
Lizzie, how dare you trick an innocent llama such as Alex? He did nothing to deserve this.
Easy.
That's right.
Did we already solve it all? 1 second. Ah, no, this one we didn't solve.
Okay.
This is not about stalemate anymore, but yet it's good.
Okay.
Okay, white. 1 second, I have to do it for chat as well. Sorry. Otherwise, they would all like solve things blindfoldly.
That'd be good.
Okay. White, king b8.
Okay.
Pawns h7. And pawns b4.
B8, B4, H7.
No. King b8.
Yeah.
Pawn h7.
Yeah.
And
pawn B4. Right.
Black, king a6.
King A6.
Rook d5.
Rook on D5.
And pawn on b5.
And pawn on B5. Where's the king again
white.
for black? Sorry.
King a6.
A6.
So I will repeat. White, king b8, pawn h7, pawn b4, black, king a6, pawn b5, and rook d5, and white to move.
What was... Okay. Black is king A6, pawn B5, rook D5. And that's it, right?
Pawn b5, rook d5, king a6. So basically you have an h pawn which is about to promote.
Right. And white to move. So doesn't white just promote? Okay, so what's the trick here? Because in my mind, I'm just promoting to a queen.
Yes, do you?
Well, let's see. If I promote to a queen, I mean, they can move the rook.
To?
Anywhere. Oh. Well, hold on. No, because then I'm stalemating them. So I promote to a right? Am I not?
Very good. If you promote to a queen, just to show to chat,
Yeah.
then the problem is after rook d8 check, I have to capture as it is a double attack, and with a queen on d8, unfortunately the guy on a6 is stalemating.
Yeah. So I promote to a rook instead.
Yes.
So that I don't have the stalemate.
So now what is a threat for, if white was to move, what would white play?
Probably just rook to h6.
Yes, rook h6 is basically more or less a mate because you can only defend with rook d6.
Right.
And that's why obviously what is black playing here?
Black is playing rook to d6 preemptively.
Of course. And now after rook d6, the question is, can you still improve the position or you have to accept the draw?
Let's see. So my pawn on b4, they have a pawn on... Is it b4 or c4? b4.
There's a pawn on b5 for black and a pawn on b4
for white. So there's no improvement there exactly. I guess the thought would be I can bring my rook to... but they're defending that. And my king is on on B8 or C8?
Your white king is on B8,
B8.
and the black king is on A6.
Right. So I either have a king move down to like C7.
Which makes sense because you are
attacking his rook on D6.
Yes. Now let's imagine I move my rook. Let's say I move my rook to E6.
Right.
Because I don't have good checks.
Well, then I go to A8.
Yes, and that's the solution. After king C7, basically black is lost.
Yeah, they have nowhere to go.
First he has to play rook D6 to prevent the mate on H6, and now after king C7, another mating threat appears on A8, and the rook is not able to defend it. He can sacrifice himself, but then without any stalemates, as the king also has some square still on A7.
Yep.
Very good, Alex. Very good.
Whew.
Let's get to something not stalemated anymore.
Okay. Oh.
I think 2 more exercises and you will be ready to explore the world full of energy.
That sounds lovely.
Shit. Okay, now you have the following position. King E2.
King E2. Okay.
Queen F3.
Queen F3.
Yes. Bishop A5.
Bishop on A5.
Yes. And pawns A3.
Yep.
F4.
F
and G3.
F4 and G3.
Yes.
Where is my queen?
Your queen is on F3. Your king is on E2. Your bishop is on A5.
Isn't...
And your...
Yeah, where... I thought you said the pawn was on F3.
No, the queen is on F3, darling.
Okay.
So it's king E2, queen F3, bishop A5.
Yeah.
And the pawns are on A3, F4, and G3.
F4, okay, and G3, got it.
Yes. And actually you're black here, but still it's always common to first name the white king.
Sure.
Black has a king on G8.
Okay.
A queen on H1.
King on G8, queen on H1, okay.
A knight on D5.
Knight on D5.
A passed pawn on H3.
Passed pawn on H3.
And protecting pawns F7, G7.
And then F7 and G7.
And it is black to move.
Okay. So... That's a lot of pieces. Okay, so they have... so white's queen is on F3.
Yes, white's queen is on F3.
So that hits G2 or H1.
Exactly. And your black queen is on H1, which means currently your queen on H1 is under attack.
Right.
And you can basically decide if you want to exchange the queens or not. But if you exchange the queens, you better be sure that you will promote with your pawn on H3.
Exactly.
Otherwise, if you will not be able to promote, you may actually face a worse position because the A pawn is usually always a nightmare for the knights.
Right. I have a knight on D5 though. So this is what I want to explore. So D5 can go to, and they have their king on E2. So D5 can go to E3, which doesn't do anything except, well, okay, we'll not say it doesn't do anything, but it can go to
Don't
there.
say this, Alex. Don't, Alex.
Yeah.
Don't ever say something doesn't do anything because
Right.
maybe you can be wrong.
Right. So it goes to E3 and it goes to G4.
Yes.
Are the two spots there. G4 currently, let's see, the pawn structure is F4 and G3 for me, and they have their queen on F3. So, oh god, whose pawns are on? No, their pawns are on those. But regardless, that square could be open, and that square also does defend the square I need. So my thought is, if I trade queens, queen take, king take, knight to G4.
Hang on. How the knight can go to G4 when your knight is on D5? I mean, you cannot like jump twice.
Oh, it can only go to F4. Sorry.
But then I can capture back on F4, right?
Well, then you have that pawn to capture. So instead, if we bring the knight to E3, your king can't capture because my pawn can run, and then I'm threatening going to G4 to defend my pawn for good. So I think the queen take is the right move, and then knight goes to E3.
Yes, you know what is the funny part, Alex? You solved it, but your explanation was absolutely wrong.
Wait, what?
The thing is, like, after queen takes F3, king takes F3, and knight E3,
Yeah.
not about knight G4 anymore. You will just play H2 in the next move because the knight on E3 is guarding the most important key square, which is the square on G2.
Oh yeah, hey, they can't even get there to block it.
Yeah, that's the idea about the solution. Your solution is, of course, funny because it's right, but in your explanation wrong.
It's right, but it's a long-winded way of getting there.
Yeah, but anyway, your intuition is great. That's why I mean, like when you say like that knight E3 and this doesn't bring anything, it was like another typical way of like finding the right move and denying it on the spot.
I was denying it as the first move, I suppose, is my thought. It can't be the first thing that happens. But afterwards, yeah, I guess I should have just saw that defended G2, preventing the king from going to G2 so I can run my pawn. Instead, I thought, oh, I can run over to G4 and then I can defend that as well and, you know, defend the ultimate square. But that's unnecessary. I made it harder. Are you there or did I lose you? Oh, I think I lost Liz. All right, she dropped really fast. Okay, so I'll explain really fast. Here, here, here. This defends this square and this square, which this king needed to be able to get to so that my pawn couldn't promote, right? If I'm not here, let's say I, do like this move, the king comes here, and now there's no way to defend this pawn, right? Like, check, takes, right? I'm too late to do anything. I can't get my knight to over here, any of that stuff. So instead, I come here. If they take, I just run, and they can't get there before I queen. Whatever it is. Now, my thought was, I want to get to here. I wasn't even thinking about this exactly. But my thought was like, okay, if they take here or they go like here, then I'm like here with a check. They can't come over here, so they're going down. Then I'm like, check. I guess they can sneak in here, though. So it doesn't quite work. Okay, Liz. So, yeah, my thought was getting that square, but that's wrong. This is just right to defend this square. Hi, Photo. Hi, Maria. How are you doing? Thank you, Nighthawk, and thank you, Nighthawk, and Decoy, and Niv. Hi, Liz.
Sorry.
You're good.
My parents were playing with the internet connection at home.
Uh-oh.
And when they're doing that, apparently it had some impact on the whole over system.
Rip. You killed Diablo, Maria? What? Oh my gosh. You're flying through. All right, well, I'll have to catch up to you for tomorrow. Okay, are you ready for next blindfold?
Yes, I'm just looking to get you back into my stream because I know you're back. Actually, everything is fine.
Okay.
I just don't understand why my parents, now they try to fix the internet in the home downstairs.
Uh-huh.
And they killed everything.
For you.
Oops.
But it's
Yeah. Just tell them no playing with it.
yeah, I told them like to wait like half an hour more and not to play too much with that.
Perfect.
Okay. Anyway, it's like we have 2 more positions and then I will leave you for your afternoon.
Sounds
But
good.
these 2 more positions we will solve. And this one is a bit more funny.
Okay.
You are black.
Yep.
And your position is the following. You have the king on...
Hold on, me or white? Are we going white first? Or?
I will give you white first. King
Okay.
on h6.
H6.
Bishop on a7.
A7 bishop.
Yes. And pawn on c5.
Pawn on c5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And black is king on c6.
King on c6. Okay.
And pawn on b7.
And pawn on b7.
Mm-hmm. And black to move, make a draw.
Black to move. c6 and b7 is all I got there.
Yes, okay. Actually, like objectively, like this is difficult for you because this is a theoretical draw position which you likely never saw in your life.
Probably not, because I don't draw many games. We win or lose at my rating level. People aren't good enough to see drawing patterns very often.
This is a drawing pattern. This is a theoretical draw, which if you haven't seen it, of course, for you, it's very hard to solve.
Okay, so white has c5 and a7, and with that bishop, blah blah blah. Yeah. So bishop a5, bishop a7, pawn c5, and I have king c5 or c6, c6.
You have the king on c6 because you cannot capture on c5.
Right, because the bishop's protecting. Yeah.
Yes.
And and then I have a pawn on b6. So let's see. If the pawn on a7 means that it is a dark square bishop. Wait, yes, a dark square bishop. And the light square is up in the top left corner. That seems like a thing to note for some reason. So if I throw away, I know that a bishop and a king ain't gonna do junk against my king. So the question is, can I force a draw by just having the pawn on that file of the B file instead of the C file?
Actually, like Alex, maybe better like to take off this blindfold thing because this is not about blindfold. This is about something which you have to know by knowledge. And it will be easier if you take it off because this is not easy to understand, even like for higher levels.
Aw.
You can also keep it on, but
Sweet.
it's not. I mean, the thing is, like, the move which we are looking for here is a kind of technical move, and it's not about blindfold or not blindfold.
Yeah.
It's about either you know it or you don't know it, actually. So maybe this position is a bit too sophisticated in terms of theoretical drawn positions, because sometimes in the end games you have positions where you are like a piece down even and
Right.
a pawn down, and still it's a draw.
Right. So, yeah, I see a lot of those at the higher levels. So, okay. So let's say that and b6. Oh, wait, my pawn's on b6.
No,
And
your pawn is on b7.
b7. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You would like to play b6 and exchange these pawns and make it draw, but after b6 I can capture with the bishop on b6.
Right. So instead, I need to move my king. Actually, I need to play b5 and force an en passant take. Thus, we get to a draw.
Yes, if you play b5, then actually it is a draw because you have to take en passant.
And then I can.
I have to explain to chat because this is not obvious. With b5, I mean, white doesn't have a choice because white will not be in time to get the pawn holding. So he has to capture now en passant. And the funny thing is that this position is draw because the moment the white king will try to get on, let's say, c6, I will just play, hang on, why I can't move now? Because now I can go to a8 and, well, if you play king c6, it's a stalemate.
Yep.
If you play king c8, it's a stalemate. So that's why you have to sacrifice your bishop as the only resource, but this is a draw as well.
Right.
And this is, if you don't know it, of course, then it's difficult. But if you know it, then you know that b5 is the only resource to make a draw. But that's why I mean, like, maybe this exercise was a bit too so it's also connected to stalemate. That's why it was in my folders.
Right.
But it's of course like with this idea to know that c takes b6 will like make the draw because of the king a8 pattern is not easy.
Yeah.
And this is about knowledge.
Yeah, because but if we were on the other corner, then it wouldn't be, right? Because the bishop would be able to attack the h8 square, or if we had a different square color bishop.
It depends on the colors, yes.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. So that was my thought, was I need to get the pawn there, but I was thinking my pawn was like b6. Yeah. But b7, then we can still move double, so that makes sense.
Yeah, but okay, it's good to know this kind of trick. I mean, like, I have to be honest, like, before I saw the exercise, I wouldn't know by heart this is a theoretical drawn position. But since I know it's an exercise, and immediately get it must be b5, because I know that sometimes with a pawn and the bishop, it can be draw because of certain kind of tricks or wrong colored bishop and stuff like this.
Yeah.
But if I hadn't known it was an exercise, maybe I wouldn't even get the idea that b5 is making draw, because it's not easy.
I just know that if it's a wrong color bishop and the pawn is on that like B or G file or A or H, I guess, then it's a draw. Because they can't.
These kind of pawns, yes, this is typical with this kind of H pawns and the wrong colored bishop for the promotion square. Yes, this everybody knows. But this kind of draw you just saw, that's like more this kind of really deep theoretical knowledge, and I would bet with you that it's not like automatic for even top players.
Yeah, no, because my thought was just how do I get the pawn onto the B file, but I wasn't thinking about forcing it and him not being able to catch up to my pawn and everything. But yeah, after thinking about it and knowing it's a tactic, that helped with that for sure.
Yeah. Okay, last position for today.
Yep.
You are black, but I will start to tell you the white pieces.
Okay.
It's king h1, queen g5,
Queen g5,
rook e7,
rook e7,
and pawn g2.
and pawn on g2.
Yes, and black is king h8,
King h8,
queen b7,
queen b7,
rook f8.
rook f8.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's black to move, and obviously if white was to move, he would mate you on g7, h6, h5 for a lot of ways.
Yes. Okay, so black is king h8, queen b7,
Help me.
rook
Hey,
f8.
why is Pete Davidson playing
Yes.
chess blindfolded?
And that's all. And then white is king h1, pawn g2, queen g5, and rook e7.
Yep.
Okay. And black to move here. So h1, e. So my queen is under threat from that rook. But e7 and g5. So
the h8 has how much squares?
My king on h8 cannot move because the queen is blocking the g and the rook is blocking the e.
The h file, yeah.
Or
The seventh rank.
Yeah. 7th rank, sorry. So my queen on b7 is lining up on the h1. So there's that pawn on g2 that's preventing my check.
Yes.
So if
what checks do you have? You have how many checks objectively?
So I have b1, I have g2, and that's probably it.
And you have f1 with a rook.
Oh yeah. F1 with the rook. I thought it was on E, but he's on the E. Okay, so F1 with the rook is technically the safest because they can't take anything if I do that. Because they're on G5, yeah, and E7. So if I F1 with the rook, he has only H2. And then I have queen to C7. But he could take that with his rook, so that wouldn't work. So I have queen to B8, which lines up C7, D6, E5. Yeah, that could work.
But you have to get rid of both pieces, right?
Yes.
In order to make a stalemate.
Yes.
And the moment like the queen is like escaping from the G file, you will not have a stalemate anymore. So you have to be very accurate how you sacrifice your pieces.
So if I go queen to C7,
you start with rook F1 check.
Rook F1 check, king H2, queen to C7.
After queen C7, for example, I can already like consider a move like rook E5, and your king, I mean, just in the worst emergency case.
Yeah.
And your king would still like be in trouble.
Okay, so instead we go queen takes on G2, king is forced to take, rook.
No, king is not forced to take.
Okay, queen can take.
Yes, and there's a problem. Where's your check after queen takes G2? If you
on
check
H1,
on H1,
yeah,
then queen takes H1, and it's not a stalemate anymore.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so instead, if I check with rook H1 first, then the king could still go to g3 technically, or they.
Let's first discuss if he takes on h1.
If he takes on h1, I take on g2. He's forced to take, and it's a stalemate.
Very good.
So
King g3 is forced.
King g3 is forced, but then I take with my queen on g2. King takes. I put my rook on g1. King takes, and then it's a stalemate as well.
Or you take the queen. Very good.
Or
Alex.
I take the queen.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Really impressive. Still my best pupil.
Still, is it like starting to get close now?
No, I mean like in terms of your perception and the speed, you're basically like combining ideas and patterns together.
Sweet.
This is still impressive.
Whew. Why is it stalemate? It's stalemate because their king is forced to take, or they're losing their queen here. So they have to take these down, and then all of this is blocked. Oh.
Oh, actually, I didn't roll my eyes at llama. I don't even understand what I did with rolling my eyes at llama. If I roll my eyes at llama, it's just because I'm so much impressed.
I'll accept that and pretend that that's true.
Yes, we will be back on Sunday, I think, with some hand and brain, and you will be my brain. And I will probably, in this particular regard, roll my eyes a lot.
You'll roll your eyes plenty.
And Anna will be the hand of Nicaea, and probably Anna will roll her eyes even more.
Hopefully.
We will see who is doing the eyes rolling in this stream. But it will be very funny in a way that we will try to follow your guys' thoughts.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I will learn how you think. That's also like a challenge. At least with women, like they know how they think among each other, but sometimes to understand male thoughts is not so easy.
Nope, we just don't think, and that's what you have to think about. What's it like to just
problem,
not
maybe.
think at all?
That is maybe the problem, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's very helpful. Everybody go, and if you enjoyed this. She also has YouTube.
I also have a YouTube channel where I have exercises almost every day.
Yes.
Maybe every second day.
So plenty of content there as well for you guys. So go check it out. Go hang out with Liz. Thank you guys. And thank you to Liz for the coaching. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Are you still staying online? I will give you the rate.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
Yeah, I'm going to play some chess.
You'll play some chess. Good.
Yeah.
So people can see what fruitful improvement you did after these lessons.
It'll probably be bad because my brain is like, oh, that is exhausting doing blindfold. I don't know how people just chill with that and see whole boards. It's crazy.
No, but actually, like the thing is, like since we like trained this kind of blindfold stuff automatically from the beginning when we learn chess, because we have to calculate, and calculation is nothing else than doing this blindfoldly.
Right.
And this is basically the way how we are permanently training it, and that's why for us it's easy.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, hard for me for now.
For now, but it will get better.
Yeah, I mean, I already felt stronger this time than last time.
Yes, no, you're improving actually in every stream, so I have big trust in you that you will get to 2,000 road by the end of the year.
Nice. Let's go. Thank you, Liz.
Okay.
Thank you for the raid.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Have a good one.